So today I am going to answer another question that was submitted on my Ask Diana page on my website. And that is a place where you can submit anonymous questions, questions that you have, and I can get back to you directly and shoot a video on them as well. It can be completely anonymous though, so you don't have to put in an email or anything if you don't want to. So this is one of those that came in, and the question is on how to get your partner to listen to you, essentially. So this was submitted by a woman who said that she can't get her husband to listen to her, or when he does, he will say that he'll do this or make a change or kind of agree with whatever she's saying, and then nothing ever changes. And this has kind of been a pattern that continues and continues and continues. So I want to address that because I think it applies to so many different people and in so many relationships. So how do you get your partner to listen to you, and why aren't they listening to you? So let's talk through that. There's a couple things that I want to kind of talk through with that. The first thing that I would want to address is, why aren't they listening? Why don't you think that they're listening? Because there's often a lot of other things going on in these situations. Whether it's just that person is super overwhelmed, or they're dealing with other things, they're really stressed. Maybe that's kind of their pattern. They tune out when they get overwhelmed. Maybe they really don't care at that moment, either about the relationship or about what's going on. Maybe they're just checked out. So there's usually more reasons of why that's happening. Maybe that's kind of a part of their personality, that they're not super good listeners. So there's a lot there that could kind of be factoring in. So what else is going on? What's going on in their life? What's going on with them? What's going on with kind of how they are that is happening? And kind of in that same vein, sort of taking the pulse of the relationship. So checking in with what is going on in the relationship. Is this that you have been together for a really long time and you both have sort of grown apart and are a little bit more checked out, not as attuned to what the other person is saying or attuned to the other person's needs? Or is this a new relationship and you just don't feel like you're connecting? What's going on right now? Check into the relationship, check into what's happening between the two of you. Are there times that you have been more connected? And what did those look like? So can you think of a time where they were listening to you and they were present and you did feel that? And what was different about then than now? So that's kind of things that I think is really good to think through, even to write down if that's kind of how you process, and think through what else is going on and try to figure out the bigger picture. So if we're only locked into this is happening and I don't like it and I'm only seeing this, then we don't step out sometimes enough to see the bigger picture about what's happening. And if we see the bigger picture and all the factors, then we're more likely to be able to address them and talk through that and fix that. So that is kind of one piece that I would say to address. The other piece, one of the other pieces I think, is also having a discussion with them, a lot of discussions with them, but one of them on expectations. Like, what are our expectations for each other? What do those look like? What are my expectations for you that I'm maybe not saying, but I'm holding you to and not really talking through? Maybe you don't even know, or maybe I don't even know, but I'm actually holding you to those, and vice versa. What are their expectations for you? And having a conversation around that. I think it's helpful sometimes for each partner to list out and try to think of, really, what are my expectations for the other person? What do I expect them to do when I'm upset? Or how do I expect them to be there for me? And then once we've identified that, how do you communicate that to them? Have you communicated that to them? Do you communicate that to them? And do they understand? So identifying the expectations and then having the conversation to really understand each other, to really understand what we expect from each other. Because often issues in relationships come down to expectations in some way or another. We're not coming together and communicating what we want and need in a clear way, in a way that's really not adding confrontation or defensiveness to the conversation. We're not very good at communicating that. So identifying your expectations and then figuring out how to kind of meet those for each other. And are those realistic, or is that something maybe you need to address? So maybe your expectations aren't completely realistic. Maybe they're not helpful. Maybe they're not healthy. Maybe they're just not good for the relationship, and that's something that you need to check on both sides. So this is a two-way exercise for sure. So I think all of those things are really helpful. Those are a lot of things that if you came into therapy for this, that we would work through and address and look at and kind of examine, and that's kind of the route we would take likely. I would also challenge you to reconnect with your partner and maybe specifically do something for that, like specifically plan an activity or plan to do something that reconnects you in the moment and to each other, because often we're in other worlds and we're just not on the same page. So we need to get back on the same page and do something to bring you back together and connect you both. So that would be another suggestion that I would make for this, is to do something to come back together and just connect with your partner and hear them and listen to them as well, and create space for you both to talk and have some of those more difficult conversations. So I hope that answers your question. Let me know if you have any additional questions or comments or anything. And if you want to submit your own question, go to my website, truetoyoucounseling.com, and you could submit that there.